because this is the picture article.
Yeah, let's do this. Oh yeah.
You know, about
Good evening, everyone. The champ of pledge allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. We're here this evening for a public hearing on the draft of our local law number 2 for 2017, the wind energy facilities local law in Hopkinton. I'm under the understanding that we do have one motion that we want to we'll talk about first before we do the public hearing.
I would like to add a single sentence. It's more of a bookkeeping type thing to page 41, section 7, Article 7, section 34C. Would like to add a statement that says, however, any future agreements and or contracts are governed by the statute contained in this law and cannot supersede said law. More specifically, I read however, any future agreements and or contracts related to the construction, operation, maintenance, or decommissioning of any equipment and or facilities related to the generation of wind power are governed by the statutes contained in this law and cannot supersede this law. There's an issue going on with the Jericho wind farm where they're contesting that the pilot agreement that was signed after the law was enacted supersedes the town law. I would like to make it abundantly clear in this law that no such contract can do so.
Read it one more time,
yep.
And then we'll just, if you can give your copy to
yep.
Jerry Jane.
I have it.
Oh, you have it. Oh, Jerry got it. Very good.
If you could read it so we could write it down, that would be.
However, any future agreements and or contracts related to the construction, operation, maintenance, or decommissioning of any equipment and or facilities related to the generation of wind power are governed by the statute contained in this law and cannot supersede said law.
I'll get it after the meeting if that's okay, because I start out and you go too fast.
I definitely think that. I feel that's a good idea.
It doesn't really change the purpose of the law at all. It just makes it clear that this is.
Yeah, it just makes it abundantly clear. So vote on that? Yes. Yes? Yep. Yes. So 5-0 on that. So that will be one small additional change to this law before we have the open discussion. So I want to take care of that before we open the public hearing up. So we'll have 1 hour for the public hearing, 3 minutes for each speaker to speak. At the conclusion of that, we'll sit here and have a quick discussion if there's anything else that you feel that you want to discuss after we hear your whatever everyone brings up to us, and then we will be going following that. Is everybody clear with that? And as always, no talking back and forth amongst people. We don't take questions. We're here to listen to what you would like to tell us, and we want to get this last opportunity to make sure that we've got everything that we feel we need to have in this town law to protect the town of Hopkinton. So, first speaker. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Gail Kelly, and I reside on Wilson Road in Hopkinton and have been a taxpayer of this town for 43 years. Several days ago on our weekly trip to Vermont via the Grainersville Road, we stopped at a home where there were well over 50 turbines visible. It was a very windy day, and many of the turbines were the same height as the proposed project. Anyway, I thought this would be a good place to hear what kind of sound was being made. I stepped out of our truck and only heard a slight pushing noise. As this stretch of the road is very rural, and I stayed there for an hour, the only objectable noise to break the near silence was an occasional car and truck going by. Now keep in mind that My husband spent an hour talking to Gerard Lavar. He's about our age, was working on his lawn, and his home is right across from the Vestal 3.07 megawatt turbine. They are 492 feet tall, but with a bigger turbine than what is proposed for us. Tim thought he looked like a man who knew about wind projects, because don't forget, he had over 30 turbines visible from his home. Gerard reported that he never hears any turbine noise in their home, nor does he or his wife feel any vibration. He spent a lot of time talking about the benefit that the town, school, taxpayers, and residents derive from wind projects. Benefits such as low taxes and new town equipment, and all with just a low portion. At the last advisory meeting, someone mentioned that Avangrid's parent company is not located in this country. Well, this piqued my interest, and I did a little research. Did you know that National Grid's home office is located in England? I also found out that 60% of modern wind turbines value is made in America. Let me repeat, Americans made. There are more than 50 factories in 43 states that produce parts for the turbines. My last comment has to do with a sudden interest to safety out around that park. Tim and I lived right in the park for over 43 years, and I like to think that we're fairly knowledgeable about this park. When the Adirondack Park was created, they built in a large buffer zone to protect the wilderness area around Saranac Lake and Tucker Lake. The park's land near here is zoned rural use and resource management. Turbines would use our rural area to harvest wind resources. Seems like a win-win situation to me.
Thank you. Next speaker? Yes, sir.
Bruce Haley, Harrisville. This is about your local wind law and sound decibel levels. It's your obligation under the New York State Constitution to protect the health, safety, and well-being of the residents of this town. To that end, I would like to read the following statement. If you were undertaking a major project or had a serious illness, you would get more than one bid or more than one opinion. This wind plant project, if built, will impact our town for up to 50 years or more. It could forever change the character, viability, and livability of our community. We have serious concerns regarding the recommendation from James Cowan to change the allowed decibel level from 35 to 45 dBA for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In his own presentation to the Wisconsin Wind Siting Board, he said that a typical rural nighttime noise level is 20 dBA. And we sent you a flyer that says sound pressure level. It's a nice colored piece of paper. And then an increase in 10 decibels is twice as loud. So a present proposed decibel level of 40 decibels dBA would be 4 times louder than this usual rural nighttime noise level. Other portions of this presentation are included to show annoyance factors, called sound quality, and health effects, documented effects of noise. At one of your Hopkinton Wind Advisory Board meetings, probably about a month ago, we saw that you were looking for clarity concerning decibel levels and noise. To answer that need, we quickly arranged and invited all of you to a slideshow presentation with telephone contact with Stephen Ambrose. This was presented in Parrishville at their planning board meeting on May 9th. Mr. Ambrose, Rick James, and Robert Rand all agreed with other acoustical engineers that 35 dBA is the maximum appropriate decibel level for nighttime in a rural area. They also agreed that at 37 decibels dBA, widespread complaints can be predicted from the public. And we just got new information tonight that from other expert opinions on noise standards, setbacks, and compliance monitoring. Because you're not accepting written comments, we will be submitting these to the County Planning Office and the Parrishville Planning Board unless you would like us to give them to you at the end of the meeting.
ask you first, anything we say here, is that going to change anything that you've written?
It could. I mean, we are going to discuss after the hearing's over.
Interesting. My speaking voice is between 65 and 72 dB. What you're claiming is that the 1,800 feet setback is too close. You put me 6 football fields from a resident and have me speak, and you want me to believe that I will disturb you if you are at your house or even inside your house. And I don't believe that. That's unrealistic. Parishville Dam. Parishville Dam is 52 dB. That's right in the center of town. If you're going to be disturbed over dB noise, that puts the school well within the 1,800 feet. It puts the soccer field within 1,800 feet. What's the problem? Nobody's sick. Nobody has any problems. The houses around the dam have that sustained sound right through the day, through the night. It's got no problem. Why are you coming up with 40 dB at the distance that you've chosen, other than to seemingly stymie this whole project? Another thing, school buses. Parents are concerned about their children and noise. Schoolbusfleet.com. School buses run between 72 and 85 dB, depending on where the engine is, in the front or in the back. Higher dB in the front. Some kids are on these buses for 45 minutes, twice a day, 180 days a year, 12 years of their life, and the kids are fine. They take their kids to hockey games, basketball games, sustained noise level over 100 dB. But yet you're drawing up a law that says that their windmills can't be over 40 dB at the nearest property line, which is outrageously restrictive. It seems like what you're doing is you're trying to stop the project. What you're doing is you're playing Santa Claus to the Christmas list that the anti-windmill people have generated.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Amy Mitchell, I live on the Common Road in Parishville. So sound works a little differently, I'm sure you're aware, when it's up high and projecting through different atmospheric conditions, different humidities, you know. And so, you know, sound can affect us differently in different ways. And anyone that knows me knows I love basketball. I love going to basketball games. But I go home, so I can't, it does have an impact, the noise. I want it to be quiet when I go home. Okay? I coach basketball now. One of the things that I was the most nervous about was riding on the school bus, because the noise makes me not feel well easy and well, like just anxious. But I love basketball, so I'm willing to go through it. Go home, it's quiet. Okay, so my home is where I go for quiet. I pick rural residential to live, not in a city, not even in a town, because it's quiet. And so there are definitely two different sides. There's definitely different opinions. Vermont, you know, you researched it there, and different countries are changing their laws because it's bothering people and making people not feel well. So.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Bob Bloom, Hopkinton. It's your obligation under the New York State Constitution to protect health, safety, and well-being of the residents of this town. As that is said, first, I want to thank you, all for all the work you have done on the new wind law. There's been so much information, pro and con, and I think you've done a good job. The only thing that I feel that you need to go back and set the DBA level back at a 35. It was established 2 meetings ago that that's what the level you were going to use, and then it was changed at the next meeting, and all the experts, including your own, say that this is an acceptable level. In fact, your expert said that 20 dBA is acceptable in a rural area. With that said, I would like to ask you as the board that the setback from the state forest and the wetlands be moved from what it is established in your law right now to 2,500 feet or 4 or 5 times the tower height. We have established wetlands, we have established state forest in the wind overlay. And from what I can see, on the possible tower points, there are going to be some in the wetlands, and if they are in the wetlands, then it needs to be addressed accordingly. And lastly, I would like to mention that in 2014, this was 2014, and this is 2017, so I'm sure there's more. There are 14,000 abandoned windmills, wind turbines in the United States alone. Let's not make Hopkinton one of these sites. We hope to avoid lawsuits. We hope to avoid complaints and continue to play a strong wind law that you have allowed, but big wind companies are trying to come into our towns and to rile up people, which has happened, and we need to take a strong stand against that.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Luke Martin from Perrysville. I appreciate your work in trying to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the community. There's a few things here I'd like to read and help comment. It's come to our attention that both James Cowan and Bernard Malinsky, consulting attorney for Roger Linden on the Northway Wind Project, provided and continues to provide consulting services for towns involved in the Hardscrapple Wind Farm in Herkimer County. In researching other Avangrid Iberdrola wind projects, we discovered that more than 60 residents in the Hardscrapple Wind Farm project have sued Iberdrola, claiming the turbines are bigger and noisier than developers promised, and that they are causing health problems and depressing property values. That was in Advanced Media, New York, Herkimer Times. Therefore, we urge all planning and wind boards to adopt the 35 dBA level from 7 p.m. until 7 a.m. with no deviation as recommended by Ambrose, James Fran, and other acoustical engineers. We hope to avoid the lawsuits and complaints and problems that continue to plague communities that do not have strong wind law and have allowed big wind companies into their towns. And with that said, we also know that there's this problem up there at Jericho Rise where people are having complaints and they're not getting satisfaction. And I looked at your wind law, and it looks pretty good as far as the penalties go and asking for compliance, but it says the officer, and it doesn't mention who that would be or whose job that's going to be and how many helpers he's going to get and so on for compliance. But somewhere there's a problem in that these other towns probably had something too of fines per day or per week. I think yours said per week, and it probably should be stronger, but anyway, there's somewhere along the line the residents are having to resort to lawsuits. Apparently, the town law isn't strong enough to have protected them from that. And, you know, I'm not a lawyer and I don't know exactly what you have to do, but I would hope that we're not to repeat that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Sandy Main, and I'd like to thank the board for all your hard work to fulfill your obligation under the New York State Constitution to protect the health, safety, and well-being of the residents of this town. To that end, we are very concerned that the current draft law does not protect the health, safety, and well-being due to improper siting of wind turbines and improper DBA restrictions. According to the World Health Organization's definition of the precautionary principle, when there is a reasonable possibility that the public health will be endangered, action should be taken to protect the public health without awaiting full scientific proof. Given the fact that the Hopkinton Wind Advisory Board and the Hopkinton Town Board have been provided with unbiased, independent studies from several experts regarding the proper siting of industrial wind turbines, 1 mile setback, and proper dBA noise levels for rural areas, 35 dBA, and yet have elected to take the advice of James Cowan, who has been affiliated with other projects that have resulted in several lawsuits, there is a distinct possibility that the town may be sued for failure to act responsibly. Obviously, evidence continues to support the fact that dBA levels are too high and setbacks are too low to protect all residents. You don't need to look any further than Chateauguay or Loudville to confirm these facts. Please do not be put off by the fact that the Jericho Rise project is not one of Iberdrola's. They are one and the same. These big companies purchase the same components, they install the same models, and they use the same playbook. And they get the same results, endless complaints and no mitigation. They've deceived the leaseholders into thinking that they care about them, when in fact they care nothing for our health, safety, or well-being. They only care about making a profit. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Gary Snell, Barrisville. 2 points. One, I do appreciate your motion you made at the very beginning of the meeting. That was my first point of my comments. Because I have a concern that leaseholders, and this takes it down to the leaseholders might be able to make side agreements with the neighbors and bypass your wind law. So that is an excellent addition to prevent this from happening, because that has happened in other locations. Also, I want to thank you for your work. And I want to comment just a little bit on the Chateauguay situation. And I'm just hoping that we're avoiding this kind of experience in the future. This is an article from the newspaper in Malone. Chateauguay, this is dated May 23rd. Chateauguay, wind towers in Chateauguay have again become the subject of noise complaints from residents. With efforts of the town, part of the town officials to conduct independent testing have encountered obstacles. The town board had planned to allow a third-party firm to come in, test the noise levels generated by the towers of the Jericho Rise wind farm in the area where a number of complaints have been raised. Town supervisor Don Lilo said that the Jericho Rise parent company, EDP Renewables, has stonewalled attempts for an outside test. The town previously tested certain wind towers in March after several noise complaints were filed. The investigation found that none of the towers exceeded the limit of 50 decibels, 50, measured at the distance of 1,320 feet under normal atmospheric conditions as outlined in the town law. These tests took place at the same time as similar tests were conducted in the town of Belmont. Noise readings were generally below the 50 decibel limits set in town, in the town law, with few exceptions returning to below the limit very quickly. Chattagay is the home of 29 of the 37 wind towers of the Jericho Rise Wind Farm. The remaining 8 are located in Belmont. Construction of the wind towers began in the fall of 2016 after EDP signed a payment in lieu of taxes pilot agreement with the county, Chattagay School, and both towns. As part of the agreement, both towns also signed a host community agreement with the company. When another round of noise complaints was filed, Biles said that the EDP assured to the host community agreement. Company officials now claim that the agreement allows them to refuse outside testing and that the agreement overrides town law.
That's for 3 minutes.
That's what we're looking at. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Again, thank you guys for all your work, but I do have some grave concerns. Besides the noise limits being way too high for a rural area in your current law, your law has no way to monitor the non-Brazilian property lines. You can't get noise there. 17A states the sound standard is 40 dBA at the nearest non-Brazilian property line, but there's no guidelines to measure this or other than it states it should be taken at 10-minute intervals. So who takes the measurements? Who has to say and who's hired to do those? Who pays for it? How far above ground should the measurements be taken? What about the general provisions? What about the instruments? The town needs to do the hiring, but that person should be made to list the manufacturer, model, serial number of all instruments used. What about the recording of the background or ambient noise measurements for day, evening, and night in the general areas of the township? Again, the law has nothing about who and when these should be taken. There is insufficient description of how these should be taken. What the law does have is a flawed way of monitoring compliance with the set standard of using a remote noise monitoring station. Why is this flawed? The monitoring devices should be manned by a person competent to use those devices. Unless there is a monitoring device at all property lines and all sides of that property, there is no way to know if each turbine meets the standard. 17E1B allows the developer to choose the consultant that does the remote stations. This takes all control away from the town. 17E1C, the developer dictates and gives description of the equipment and its capabilities. Is going to a website or software. Therefore, the town does not have any say in what is being used. What is the software? Has it been used before? Has it been tested independently for accuracy? As of now, this law states that only authorized website users would have access to the data from these remote sites. Nowhere does this law say that anyone from the town would be authorized or an authorized website user. Therefore, how would anyone know what the data truly is? Why wouldn't it be public information? Unless the developer is trying to hide something. So there's no real-time noise data being collected at each non-participating property line in residence. Therefore, as Gary mentioned, the burden of proof will shift to residents to prove that the noise limits are being exceeded. Lastly, this is a monitoring system only. This section does not say anything about what happens when they go over. The data is being collected only. In Oregon, they do have a project that does have some sort of remote monitoring system. However, there's only 5 residents within that project. And what happens is, when it goes over the state limit, which I believe is 35 dBA, 10 turbines are shut down within 30 minutes of that monitoring system. There's nothing here for that.
That's for 3 minutes. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hopkinton. I actually wrote this in my figure this year. It is your obligation under the United States Constitution to protect the health, safety, and well-being of any residents of this town. To that end, the definition section of Hopkinton's and Perishville's wind laws currently states that participating land is land where any agreement is signed with the developer. Based on this statement, unrecorded agreements, including bird and grass studies, and good neighbor agreements made with the developer would qualify as participating land. Under the current draft wind law, these agreements would, in essence, link these parcels of land with properties owned by leaseholders, thereby waiving the minimum 2,500 foot or 5 times the total height setback, whichever is greater, and subjecting these individuals to possible negative impacts to health, safety, and well-being. We would request that the current language be amended in order to clarify participating land as being land where the property owner has signed one of 2 agreements, either for the placement of an industrial wind turbine or the placement of transmission lines, and that all other studies and agreements, including good neighbor agreements, not be taken into consideration as far as setbacks are concerned. To that end, we would recommend the inclusion of language to protect those who have not taken the time to thoroughly investigate the consequences of signing an agreement with Iberdrola, Avangrid, Atlantic Wind. Furthermore, it should be noted that not all leases or agreements have been recorded with the St. Lawrence County Clerk's Office, one of which was allegedly signed by the property owner in August of 2016, 9 months ago. Thank you for your attention.
Yes.
Lori Witherell, President of Parrishville. I would like to sincerely thank all of you for the work that you've done, and I know you're taking your responsibilities to protect our health, safety, and well-being seriously. I would like to state that it is our opinion that the change recommended by James Cohen to change noise compliance monitoring by conducting tests when the wind speed is at 15 miles per hour instead of 30 miles per hour is an error in judgment, as the wind speed directly correlates to the turbine operating at rated power for electrical generation for the grid. In other words, the issue of wind speed is a distraction that should not be used. The wind turbine sound power level is directly related to the electric power output. Therefore, increased wind speeds will make the blades rotate faster, generating more electricity. The faster the rotation, the louder the noise level. For example, ridge-mounted turbines can still be noisy, even if there is no wind detected at ground level, because the wind can still be strong at higher altitudes. It is a frequent trick of operators, and we got this from a sound expert. It is a frequent trick of operators to use noise-reduced operating modes during noise tests, because the wind turbines appear to be spinning at full speed, but the noise can be reduced by up to about 5 dBA. So noise monitoring can be manipulated, and for that reason, all monitoring must be done by an outside, independent sound engineer hired by the town and paid for by the wind company. The wind company cannot comply with the 35 dBA maximum nighttime sound level when the winds are strong, unless they turn them off or increase setbacks from property lines to 10 times the total height of the tower. Thank you.
I hope you will err on the side of caution. Be as strict as you can, as all these people have suggested, because they've done the research. They've spent hours and hours and hours researching. They know what they're talking about. In 2014, the Board of Health in Brown County, Wisconsin, has declared a local industrial plant to be a human health hazard. The specific facility consists of 8 500-foot high 2.5 megawatt industrial wind turbines. The board made its finding with a 4-0 vote. After it had wrestled with health complaints about the wind plant for more than 4 years, ultimately the board's ruling was based on a 4-year-long study which documented health complaints and demonstrated that infrasound and low-frequency noise emanating from the turbines was detectable inside homes within a 6.2-mile radius of the industrial wind plant. Jay Tibbetts, a physician and a member of the Brown County Board of Health, said the board based its position that the turbines constitute a health hazard on a weight of evidence. According to Tibbetts, microbarometers were placed in homes located in the area surrounding the industrial wind plant. The purpose of this was to detect acoustic emissions, including infrasound and low-frequency noise emanating from the turbines. They found that there were tones of infrasound and low-frequency noise as far away as 6.2 miles from the nearest wind turbine. And there were complaints associated with one that far. We have 80 people on record who have made health complaints, including a nurse who is going deaf to this continuous. We can't ignore this. Brown County Health Code defines a human health hazard as a substance, activity, or condition that is known to have potential cause acute or chronic illness or death if exposure to the substance, activity, or condition is not abated. So please be as strict as possible and listen to what these people say. They've been researching like it is their life breath.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, my name's Pamela Creighton. I live here in Hopkinton. I've probably driven through Chateaugay more times than most people have. I moved here in 2002. I've been to Burlington. I was just over to Burlington the other day. So I've been through the turbines, all seasons, all weather, everything. But what I've noticed, as she was saying with low frequency sound, as soon as I get within range of it, I start to get a popping in my ears. My ears plug out. They actually, on certain days when it's really windy, I'll get the earaches, and it doesn't clear up until I get past Ellenville. And then my ears pop and go back to normal. So then I go with them off. I come back, I go through the same exact thing. And lately, I've been going back and forth so much, it's getting worse and it's taking longer for my ears to, and I'm thinking, what's going to happen when I'm around them 24/7? And so I have experienced the low frequency sounding. I'm one of the people that it affects. And usually I don't talk, I don't speak up, but the other day, my ears really did hurt. But it's a pressure like you would get on top of a mountaintop. And it just feels like the ears are just stuffed. And I'm thinking it does this, and there are other times it just feels like a pressure in your head. And it affects me. It may not affect you, it may not affect any of the people in this room, but it affects me. And I know I can't stay around the winter time. And as I said, I know what it does to me. So I don't have to wait for it to come in and find it. And I'm just afraid that it would be, might go deaf. I don't know. And I've got good hearing, it's not like I have hearing aids or anything like that. But yes, it does, you do get that stuffing in the ears and stuff. And as I said, I watched them being put up in Chateaugay, and I was wondering why my ears popped until I started doing research. And that's when I found out. And then I kept keeping track every time I went over, and we do it in the same place. And they started moving this way, so now I get it again. And I noticed it when I went to Loudville. It was a really windy day, and I started to get pressure in my ears there. So it does affect you, unfortunately. So I hope you take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Kelly Solano. I live in Hopkinton. And first I want to say I do commend all of you for really taking it seriously and educating yourselves. And I think you are doing your best to make the best decisions for us. I want to know that this week I called Chateaugay. I called Chateaugay School, which anybody in this room could do if they wish. I spoke with Jackie Collins, who is the treasurer there. She deals with the money. And their tax levy has decreased 2.63, gone down every year. It just has a way on. So this, the pro-men are always saying our taxes. Well, it's not that way. Maple Ridge is under a different plan. They're under the Empire plan. It's not comparable to what we will have. So please, take it upon yourselves to make the phone calls to research it. As far as the whoosh, whoosh sound, that's what we're all talking about. It does sound like a whoosh, whoosh. And the decibels need to be 35. 40 is too high. So please, reconsider that. Studies by Peterson Way and the EPA show that in rural areas, noise from wind turbines at 35 dBA typically have sporadic complaints. Wind turbine noise between 36 and 40 dBA have widespread complaints. Wind turbine noise over 40 dBA results in strong appeal to stop the noise, and over 45 dBA results in threats of legal action. I also just wanted to say that the hydro in Parrishville, that is a natural waterfall. That waterfall would be there whether the hydro was there or not. So the noise levels of natural things are not comparable to unnatural noise levels that we're going to be subjected to if the windmills come. And I also would like to say, anything that is on our site, which is NNY Wind, it's all been researched, and they are from reliable sources. So, you know, I want everybody to consider that as well. Nothing is posted on there that hasn't been from a reliable source. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Norma Davis, I live in Parrishville. We have farmland all around us. We have tractors that run up and down the road. We have logging trucks that run up and down the road. Their DBAs are more than 45, so that's not going to hurt anybody. And as another thing, there's no justification provided for a setback 5 times the total height of the turbine from the public roads, wind overlay boundary, the APA boundary, the farm or commercial structures, or any above ground utilities. This is well beyond the limits established in other towns in New York with the operating wind projects. And there's no basis for why setbacks have been revised again, or why a setback is 5 times the total height, and it's supposed to be more appropriate or necessary. If the setbacks are intended to address safety concerns associated with a blade throw or turbine collapse, a smaller setback would be sufficient.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Power. I'm kind of amazed that on the right side of the aisle, this young lady here passed out papers to everybody there. Apparently, we are talking about over here. Point made. The thing of it is, fact tells the truth. And naysayers can go, but, excuse me, I was very quiet. Will you all be quiet?
You didn't say who you were.
Oh, Henry Wallace.
Thank you, sir.
Okay? The point is, hearsayers can also be naysayers. And I'm amazed to see negativeness on this side of the aisle. Fear. There was a president in my time that said, after Pearl Harbor, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. And certainly the right side of the audience here seems to be fearing that they don't want that, or there's too much sound. Now, we moved up here, we bought a nice home in 2008. Metro North Railroad was 28 feet from the center of the tracks to our bedroom window. And the trains went by every 20 minutes with 115 decibels of horns right through the village. No one ever got sick. No one ever had headaches. Okay? My children were born and they've grown up there. They're now adults. This company that wants to develop wind turbines here is to supply into the national grid, we'll call it, the electricity that's necessary for the future, and also to run factories. You might not get the electricity, but somebody else will that produces the things that you need up here, right? I would entertain that this board seriously consider the future of young children, and the young children, when they become my age, their children and grandchildren and great-children. The only way you're going to produce electricity is through water power, nuclear, coal, and solar. The governor of our state has advocated he wants clean energy. Clean energy. Now, as the people multiply their numbers of humans, there's going to be more demand for energy. It's got to come from somewhere. A company is willing to develop wind towers on leased property and go into the grid. We're all going to pull from it. Our future is going to pull from it. So that when you make your decision, please not only consider present day, but also the future. You've got to do that because you know something? That little child over there, when they become a grandparent, is going to say back on, what is it, May 25th today? 2017, the wrong decision was made and I'm being affected by it.
Thank you.
Now,
Sir, that's for 3 minutes. Thank you.
I have a question.
We're not taking questions. Just comments.
Reference, I need clarification from one of the newspaper articles. They said the setback is measured from the foundation of the house, not from the end of the property. Is that correct?
For non-participating, it's the property line, not the home.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
First, Sheldon Pearsville. I got a little excerpt here. A look what happens when county commissioners and zoning boards choose to do the job of protecting and speaking for the people who live there and won't play for the cool of big wind. In April, the Lincoln County Commissioners of South Dakota voted to establish half-mile setbacks from homes. This came after a group of Lincoln County citizens did their research and voiced their opinions for 1 mile setbacks. But even a half mile did not satisfy South Dakota Community Wind Project. Brian Minish of the project said that distance would doom the project. Then he stated that he would take it to a vote. Big Wind, limitless in funds, wants to override the will of the people in their own community using the referendum, whereas the people being forced to live under the towers must use their own resources to fight the invasion. They're not alone. Since in October, wind giant Next Era Energy has filed lawsuits against 5 rural governments from Oklahoma to Michigan. All have imposed limits on the wind turbine development. We must clearly see that these multinational foreign corporations simply want to use us and our natural resources for their bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm Dick Nathan talking. I'm talking something different besides noise and setbacks. You've heard all you want to learn. And how can you change your mind on not much crisis? The only thing that bothers me a little bit is on your real property agreement for the values. You talked about hiring appraisers. Not one thing in there ever discusses the assessed value. And I don't think anybody should ever want more than what it's assessed. Because if they think it's more, they ought to be telling their assessor ahead of time. If you're happy with what it's assessed for, you ought to be happy at that agreed price. And for somebody to pay more than that, I think is wrong. So, I mean, not one, I just think somewhere in there, you ought to put what cannot exceed the assessed value. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. My name is Joe Snell. I apologize for the paper, but I can't read that well because my eyes, so I'm just going to talk. I think the reason that this group here has the papers in front of them is because they've done a lot of research across the United States, across the world. And what we're bringing to you are the facts that are happening in other parts of our country. The lawsuits, and it's not trivial, it's for a reason, because the noise level and the setbacks. You know, we're not trying to destroy Parisville Hopkinton, you know, and all we're trying to do is protect it, and we're getting information from other parts of the country that say, this has happened, this is happening, and that's why we're here. Thank you.
Jack Kelly, Parishville. I woke up this morning and noticed that most of my signs are gone out the front, and there's probably one of these people over there, but anyhow.
That's uncalled for, definitely.
I think that because of the misinformation and the fear tactics of you people, I want to make these points. First of all, I think this project will give about a quarter of a century boost to our communities and allow leaseholders to establish secondary businesses. Two, construction will give temporary gain to the area contractors to hire and expand their businesses. And all construction projects actually do get completed and they move on. But during that period of time, you're going to be making money to hire other people, which is important for the area. Property sales, you know, I've lived here for almost 30 years. I haven't seen too much movement. If air problems are a problem, I imagine that Lala has an epidemic down there. Another issue here, as far as ice throw goes, I think it'll stand a better chance of being hit by a deer. Visually, the towers are stretched out, and they're not like Chateauguay. I mean, you're not going to get a barrage of towers. And that photo by concerned citizens is totally misinterpreted, okay? And it was meant to be that. That's why I don't trust you people. What the towers look like is an eye of the beholder. As you can see, the Stratford Paper Company has this on their sketchbook, which is what, a wind tower, you know? So anyhow, in conclusion, as far as being a foreign country, we all have to take a look to see what we're driving for cars, don't we? I mean, some of us are driving foreign cars. And if this company is corrupt and dishonest, certainly there's a tremendous paper trail to be easily followed, right?
There is.
Yeah.
There is.
Well, that goes it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Jack.
It is your obligation under the New York State Constitution to protect the health, safety, and well-being of the residents of this town. I find it very unfortunate, and this is an ad lib, that personal attacks have occurred in here tonight, because I don't recall any of them occurring from this side of the room. But several well-respected acoustical engineers have shown that noise from industrial wind turbines should not exceed 35 dBA. Some even say 33 dBA. Thus, I respectfully ask that anyone on this board who will live within hearing proximity to even one turbine to consider the fully proven and valid data regarding a 40 dBA level versus a 35 dBA level. There are lawsuits in process for violating noise levels, countless testimonials from people who suffer the ill and negative effects and impacts of wind turbine noise, infrasound, and perpetual shadow flicker. Their voices deserve merit. One thing remains unchanged. Money is not worth our forever.
The board's been provided with a peer-reviewed study and reports that show that wind energy development will not result in negative health and safety impacts, and that's according to the World Health Organization, the U.S. National Academy of Science, the U.S. National Institute of Environmental Health Science. And as far as the shadow flicker is concerned, turbines don't rotate fast enough to induce seizures. This is based on over 75 peer-reviewed studies of those living near wind turbines and government agency reports that have reviewed this topic from around the world. And if the setbacks are designed for public safety rather than for trying to impose obstacles to wind development, the law should have a separate 500-foot setback from the state land. The amount of state land within the project area are extensive. These lands are managed by the state and can't be sold, subdivided, or developed. For this reason, they do not give rise to the same safety concerns that may justify a greater setback from other types of property and structures. The board has not provided any reason why a setback greater than the height of the turbines is necessary to the boundary of state land. Thank you.
Speaker. Yes, ma'am.
And I'd like to share all our information with you, but I bought it before and the people don't know. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Yes, I mean, thank you. Yes.
I had a question about the wind law and stuff. In there, when we talk about ambient noise of the surrounding area and property assessments, will the town be paying for basically a database of what our current ambient noise is and our current assessments are, so that we have something to go by before they come in and ruin it? Because it's hard to get those measurements after the fact.
That's something I can't answer specifically, obviously, right now, and that would be something possibly taken to the town board. Thank you. Very briefly.
I just wanted to have a quote from the Northridge Facebook page, also in the PSS, that states that with properly cited, including sound and distance, wind turbines do not have an adverse health effect from audible sounds, low frequency, and so forth. So in other words, they're saying that improperly ones do. With their own words, they're admitting that improperly cited turbines do have an adverse health effect. So by not having a 35 dBA in the law means you're normally passing a law that's going to create adverse health effects.
Any other speakers? That being said, is there any discussion from members of the board before we go any further? There's no more this evening. Still like to bring up the 35, doesn't it?
Yeah. I still feel
No. Any other comments? What we can do is we'll vote on the deviating, and I want to make sure if there's anything else that we need to discuss. I think we'll do a quick vote on that before we go any further. But any other discussion areas? You're good? Are you good? Right. Well, no, we're not going, yeah, if there's anything else, I think we'll discuss the 35 again before we go any further. I don't know if there's any other areas that we want to discuss.
I would just say, this raises the tough point in regards to the
and I suppose that's something we're always going to be able to, that's, I think, something that's going to take a while to rework through possibly. And there's always going to be the possibility in the future of looking at the town map again. Yeah, the town board certainly has that, and we'll also have that, ability. There was, there's been some comments made tonight that I'm sorry they didn't do this evening, which is something, why we've been doing this for 11 months, and why we're hearing some of these things, is something that.
If they just got to see the actual.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Good point. I guess with that being said, I think we will at least, because the 35 dBA issue certainly has been, I think, probably high in the voice this evening. We'll take one more specific vote on just that, and then we'll go on to the entire. The vote will be on whether or not we will stay with the 40 dBA as our limit.
I
say no, 35.
I'm going to stay with the 40.
Yeah, we'll stay with
the 40. So we continue with the same vote as 3-2, keeping it at 40. With that being said, is there any further discussion before we put our panel on to a vote?
It is recommending the law.
We're recommending the law, we'll be going to the planning board and then on to the town board. Any further discussion? Okay. Mary Jane?
I vote no.
Okay. I will vote yes. amending the town law. That will be our last meeting for the foreseeable future. I suspect possibly we'll come back to us after it goes to the planning board. That's a possibility, or it may go to the town board, and the town board can send it back to us. But for the present time, we'll be adjourned, and we'll announce the next time we will be having a meeting when that happens. I want to thank everyone, please, very much for all your time that everything that you brought to us. We certainly have appreciated it. There's been a lot over the last 11 months that we have been taking in and working on, and I think we've tried to do the best we could to bring a town law, to replace the town law that was in place, that I don't feel protected the town at hardly at all. And I think we've now got something in place that is protecting certainly the town a lot better than we had previously. And again, I want to thank everyone for all their time spent with us and all their words. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I also would like to thank the advisory board for all their help.